Hey, good evening, everybody. Trying something a little different today. Just trying to figure out the best place to do these videos. Sorry for the super blank, boring wall behind me. It will not be like that forever. So today's video is on one of the many myths about homeschooling, and that is the myth that homeschooling is so expensive. So when we think about the expense of homeschooling, first of all, we need to think about what we're already spending, particularly those of you who already have children in school. So if your child is already in public school, for example, then think about the money that you spend over the course of the year on things like field trips, things like hot lunch, things like gas, getting to and from school if you have to drop your child off, pick them up. All of these, there's always like picture day, like all of these weird little things that pop up during the year that, it's a little money here, it's a little money there, and it all builds up though over the course of the year, right? So public school is not 100% free, really, when you think about it. Obviously, you can just say, no, we're not going to pay for that field trip, you don't get to go, or no, we're not buying pictures this time. But that means then that you're trading something, right? You're saying no to something so that your child can, or so that you can save that money, but that means that your child is missing out on something that everybody else is doing. And so we tend to not say no to those kind of things very often, right? We scrape together, we figure out how to make it happen. So first of all, think about those of you who have children in school, think about the money that you're already spending. Obviously, no, you're not having to buy curriculum, things like that. However, you are having to spend quite a bit of money on supplies. And I remember the first year that my daughter started attending the homeschool hybrid that she's a part of. She goes to school 2 days a week, and the rest of the week she's at home, and we do the homework on those 3 days that she's home. And the list of materials that she needed, it was hilarious to me. I could not believe how much stuff she was supposed to have for these classes. But then when we got to Target, and they had like a big setup there with all of the local schools, all of the different grades, and all of the checklists of all the supplies that they needed. And their lists were even bigger than ours. I couldn't believe it. The amount of money that you have to spend just on supplies at the beginning of the year is insanity for some of these schools. Maybe not all schools. Maybe some schools are super cheap. They don't make you bring a whole lot. But wow, I could not believe how much stuff some of these schools wanted you to buy. So you're already spending money. Regardless of what option you choose, you're going to have to spend some money, right? Now, curriculum spans the spectrum from free, like straight up free, to $1,000, depending on what you're getting. But the most fantastic thing about the internet is resale groups. And you would not believe how many homeschool curriculum resale groups there are on Facebook. Oh my goodness, it's fantastic. I almost never pay full price for the curriculum that I use with my girls. I almost always get things used, because why not, right? And the great part about that is that you are also, when you sell it, you're making back a little bit of what you spent in the first place. So when you are starting up, then yes, you are going to have to purchase curriculum if you choose to purchase curriculum. And remember that you don't have to use curriculum to homeschool. So in general, now your state may require that you use that the educational approach that you take be a little more formal. Remember that you always have to look at your state laws and what they require. So I tend to speak in generalities because obviously I can't speak to the 50 different ways that you can homeschool in this country. But in general, okay, when you start purchasing curriculum, you should be able to find much of what you need, possibly everything you need, for fairly cheap on used resale groups. There are even homeschool stores, bookstores, where you can buy new curriculum or used curriculum. Some programs, it's just regular books. It's just regular novels. You can get them on Kindle, or you can get them for $1 down at the used bookstore. Some, really old, beat up paperback version, which is like the best kind of book, right? So it's going to depend on where you live, because obviously what kind of curriculum you purchase is going to depend on what your state requires you to do. It's going to depend on the type of studies that you're doing, because, for example, if you have a high schooler who wants to take an AP class, and yes, homeschoolers can take AP classes, there are going to be specific textbooks that they need, right? And textbooks, yes, those can get a little more expensive, but you can always look for used. It's really going to depend on the approach that you take, and this is where homeschooling gets the most expensive, is that people start their homeschooling journey by purchasing curriculum. That's like the first thing they do. They start looking around at curriculum. Ooh, I like the look of this. Or so-and-so down the street homeschools, or so-and-so at church homeschools, or so-and-so's cousin homeschools, and she really likes this. She says it's really good, so I'm just going to get that. Okay. When you start with curriculum, you have no idea if you're getting the thing you need, because you don't know what your child's learning personality is. You don't know what your homeschooling approach really ought to be, what homeschooling methodology lines up the most with your philosophy, your own ideas about education, what you want your child to do, what's going to suit your child. And this is why homeschooling can be so expensive, because people purchase curriculum for all the wrong reasons. They get it home, they open it up, they use it for a week, and they go, ugh, I don't like this at all. And that was actually one of the reasons why I started Good Schooling, my homeschool coaching business, in the first place. Because I went into homeschooling with an education background, thinking I knew exactly what I was doing. And by the end of the first semester that we were homeschooling, we realized nearly every piece of curriculum we'd gotten was not what we actually needed or wanted. We spent hundreds of dollars that first year on curriculum that we either used for like a month, used for a week. We had one program, we literally unboxed it and boxed it back up. We didn't even like take stuff out of the shrink wrap inside. That was so frustrating because I thought I knew what I was doing. I bought what sounded like really good stuff, but it turned out to be all wrong. It didn't suit our kids. It didn't suit our methodology. I just didn't know that stuff yet because I was coming at it all with the wrong approach. So that was one of the main reasons that I started Good Schooling in the first place, because I wanted to help families know from the get-go, what should I be using? How should I be homeschooling my kid? How do I know that I'm using the right curriculum? I don't want you to spend $500 on curriculum and then by Christmas say, this isn't working. That's horrible, right? Oops, my phone says low battery. Hopefully that's not going to matter. So when you are trying to figure out what you want to do for curriculum, you first have to figure out, how does my kid learn? You then need to figure out, what's my methodology? Then you need to look at the different curriculum options that work best with the methodology that you've selected. And when you do that, then you are setting yourself up to purchase curriculum that's actually going to work for you the first time. Instead of purchasing this whole system, getting it home, and going, oh crap, this is not at all what I want. That can still be really overwhelming, I know. And that, again, is one of the reasons why I'm here. If you look at that and you think, oh my gosh, there's so many choices, and I just have absolutely no idea. That's part of what I do. I give my coaching clients a list of curriculum that I recommend. It's a very short list, not a million choices to look at, that lines up with each of the different methodologies. And that way, when they go to purchase curriculum, They already know, okay, these are good programs. Okay, it's high quality stuff because I only include stuff on those lists that's high quality. But they also know this should line up with what I want to do. This should work for our methodology. And then you go to one of the many used homeschool curriculum sites on the internet, or and they're actually on like the internet. You don't just have to look on Facebook. Facebook's a lot easier, but yes, they do have other sites on just the internet where you can go and look. And like I said, there are even bookstores that sell used curriculum. Go on Amazon. You can find tons of curriculum on Amazon and the Amazon Marketplace, which is like their resale shop, right? Somebody just asked a fantastic question. What is methodology? Sorry, I throw around these big words and I sometimes forget people don't know what I'm talking about. Methodology is the approach to homeschooling that you choose. So there are roughly like 8 or 9 or 10, something like that, unique methodologies for homeschooling. And when you homeschool, you tend to align yourself with 1 or 2 of those, and then you kind of tweak them to make them your own. And curriculum is written to align with these different approaches and methodologies quite often. So, for example, classical homeschooling, classical education is a type of homeschooling methodology. Waldorf education, Montessori education. You've probably seen Montessori schools. You can do Montessori approach, the Montessori approach at home. Same thing with Waldorf. There are lots of Waldorf schools, mostly for younger children. You can do Waldorf at home. And so there's curriculum that is written for these different types of methodologies. And so you take that, once you figure out what methodology you are, then you take that curriculum that aligns with that. Then you look at those choices that go with that, all the different, publishers that tend to publish for that particular approach. So that's what methodology is. Thank you very much for asking that, Michelle. And then you start looking online for places where you can get your curriculum cheap. Now here's the really great thing. Remember, I mentioned earlier that you don't necessarily have to use curriculum, right? Regardless of what approach you take to homeschooling, for the most part, you can often get everything you need through the library, through, if you have a Prime account with Amazon, Amazon Prime has so much in the way of videos, things like documentaries, great video series, TV series for kids, things like even Netflix to get documentaries and things like that, and other TV shows that, I'm thinking, for example, Magic School Bus. Fantastic for science for younger kids, right? Wildcrats, that's another great program on PBS that's fantastic for science. So there are different things that you can do that are inexpensive or free through your library, through online programs that people create curriculum and they'll sell it for very inexpensive, and it's just downloadables, you know what I mean? So there are lots of different options, but the main expense comes when you buy the wrong thing. So when you're homeschooling or when you're starting your homeschooling journey, that is the thing that you need to think about most, is how can I lay the groundwork first to figure out what I actually need before I start shopping for curriculum. Whatever you do, never go on Google and search up homeschool curriculum and then just start scrolling. You will drive yourself absolutely mad, and you will probably talk yourself out of homeschooling because you'll think, oh my gosh, there are literally thousands of options. I'm never going to pick the right one, so forget it, right? So never take that approach. In fact, in my coaching, I actually teach my clients how to find curriculum on their own if they decide after they've started homeschooling that they want to look for something new that's outside of the recommendations that I've given them. I teach them how to find curriculum without ever once using Google. Very useful tool. So make sure that you're thinking about these other things first: your child's personality, learning personality, your methodology, how it is that you want to homeschool. And then once you've got all that figured out, then you start looking at curriculum. And I know curriculum is like everyone's favorite thing. That's the first thing they want to jump in. What's the stuff I'm going to use? But you've got to make yourself step back and do things in the right order, or else you're going to end up with a whole bunch of stuff on your hands that you can't use, and that's just flat out frustrating and very expensive. So I hope that helps. Bottom line is, no, homeschooling does not have to be expensive. Homeschooling is not inherently expensive. It's all about the choices that you make, right? So, if you don't mind used, there you go. If you don't mind used, you're going to be fine. It's not going to be horribly expensive at all, because you're going to be able to find virtually everything you need cheap. I hope that helps. Do comment if you have any other questions. I will also put my link for scheduling if you want to schedule a homeschool exploration call to talk about what coaching would look like for your family. If you think, if you hear these videos and you think, okay, well, yeah, I know she says it's not that hard, but okay. I don't ever want anyone to feel like they can't do this. Yes, 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 you can. Everybody can homeschool who wants to homeschool. That's what I am here to help you do. So please check that out. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.